Thank you, and I have to say, we've been looking over this, but what a day for the underdogs it's been so far. So many of the contenders have stepped up. Sure, Liquid lead by a country mile, but below them, you have the CIS giants kicking off. And it's teams that we didn't necessarily expect. You look at Se7en, they finished in, what, 8th in contenders? Not exactly a name you'd instantly be looking at, but they have made impressions. Those 2-second finishes, as Martin said, the first that came in, and the boatload of kills to boot, that's pushed them up in second. I can't keep overlooking these guys. They were never meant to make it this far. You'd argue they'd have gone out in groups, but no, they pushed through there. And here they are, looking phenomenal. Beyond that, Unity, Avangar. We have, again, contenders delivering on a stage where it was always meant to be those PEL teams who've just fallen to the shadows.
This is always what this event was about. We need to put these teams on display and show the rest of the world what they can do. And most importantly, for the teams that are in Pro League, be aware of what phase number 3 will have to hold. Once we're done with phase 2, 4 teams will drop down to the relegation side of things. The top 12 will then come up from contenders, and there's going to be 4 spots open. I cannot stress enough, I mean, even with the 2 teams coming up to the next phase regardless because of team changes, team splits, so on and so forth, but still, phase 3 for Europe is going to be potentially one of the hardest leagues in the world across all the regional leagues that we have in PUBG. It's going to be ridiculous.
And let's have a look at that first circle. We see the teams dropping in. I'm looking at that kind of top 3, top 4. Obviously, Liquid still to the top. We don't need to worry about them too much. I do see the Digital Athletics have put 2 players a little bit closer to the road this time, Sixmo and Mert. I don't think that's too wild. They did normally take Chumacera, so maybe they're just trying to spread their wings, feel a bit more confident, maybe trying to be a bit more proactive. I'm looking at your, of course, Se7en. Where are they currently sat? Where is their loot location as we speak? I'm having a look across the board. I see, again, they're one of the teams that I don't know that much about yet. I haven't been keeping tabs on, but they are out towards the west side of Los Leones, very close towards Northern Lights. That's their current loot spot. They're not too far from the circle. They'll be perfectly fine, I can imagine. Unity in a good spot as well. Northeast is theirs. Obviously, the remnants and kind of, I guess, the leftovers from Na'Vi in a way, if you want to look at it that way, the older roster there. Avangar, another team you cannot ignore, currently outside of the circle, down towards the southern side where Zoekt Een Naam, some of 3D Max are lingering. We have a lot of players on that southern side currently.
I like the fact that Unity is stepping up to the challenge and stepping up to the plate of what they need to perform when they move into phase number 2. They are a team that have been essentially promoted because of team changes and spots that have become apparent, same with reciprocity. When you look at this roster, Dastish, I believe Tyzerin, Blast on an Orange Snow, again, a couple of the players are really performing to the level of a league team, what we want to see. It's going to be an interesting one for the simple fact that this won't be the roster that they move in with phase number 2. But certainly when we look at the players that have been standing on this, they are CIS powerhouses. There's players from Na'Vi that have been doing this for a hell of a long time. It's an interesting one which always seems to, and the GLL meme was a bit of a real one, that if you win GLL, you essentially split up within the following months. We had 3 different winners for 3 seasons of GLL. Each was a CIS professional team, which I think that was great for the ecosystem because it allowed them to perform to the higher standards of all these teams, your FaZe Clan, you know, your Team Liquid, your TSM. They gave the open foundations to put them on the map. And honestly, they've not failed to deliver. The CIS teams are absolutely no joke. And when we go forward to phase 2, we've got the Na'Vi reshuffle that's been on this, members of Red Diamonds and Jokers coming together. Same even when we go to Crowcrown. Like Crowcrown in itself, all right, there were a few memes and giggles and this, that, and whatsoever, but Crowcrown actually did pretty well. I'm intrigued to see how much further they can go when we do go to phase 2 because, again, it's a new roster.
Right, and now we've talked about that top 4 position. We've got to look just below that, which is your Digital Athletics and your FaZe Clan. You'd kind of expect a bigger swing and a bigger performance from them because they are meant to be those kind of spicier teams. I'd argue, and I'll give them a little bit of respite in this, is that Digital Athletics do not have their full 4. They're missing out on Iro, visa issues coming in, which is a real shame because that man is an animal. He can certainly provide a lot of firepower, give you those kills, but they have really stepped up with the stand-in here and shown that they are, again, a very, very competent and diligent team. FaZe Clan on the early move, for me, the win conditions for them are always going to be trying to keep people alive late game. We see it time and time again. They just get whittled down all the way through and they're left with 1, maybe 2 players. We want to see those full 4, potentially 3 if they lose out on 1 alive at the end. That's the big difference for me here.
I think it's an interesting one when we look towards the side of Digital Athletics. The Turkish roster, as you mentioned, isn't playing with its full force. There is a standing there. Ira is essentially the man of the hour. However, for that team in itself, pause for a second when we see this. FaZe Clan in tickle from across the road, but you'd assume they're all safe and secure here, just in the buildings. Tornado Energy does have an eyeline on, but Iro is allowed to get the kills. Just be bobbing and weaving. I'm quite surprised we're getting so many early engagement, but I'll leave this one to you for now.
Yeah, this was down towards the south. We saw that Avangar was struggling with the rotations from that southern island, the prison island, because Zoekt Een Naam were up slightly further, kind of holding the other side of the bridge. But the rest of 3D Max were also very close by, so it's not without threats wherever you go. Maxi could be in trouble, and for Avangar, this would be a heavy loss early on. These guys are well within the top 4 and look excellent going forward. If they lose out now on a player this early, it's not ideal, it's not what you're going to be wanting. And FaZe Clan, their pressure is not relenting either. They're still being kind of tested from your Na'Vi and your Tornado Energy.
Could have put the smoke a bit closer to the tree and maybe sat behind the tree to deny line of sight. He does get away with his life for now, and there is a player there to get the revive. So he's okay. However, it's 3D Max that do have to come across the bridge, so they either play this one smart and play it wide, or Noki as a distraction. I would have thought of Avangar just head inside the circle and regroup. Same kind of split we saw yesterday with 3D Max, where one player goes completely split from the rest of the pack. Both of these teams playing a very similar game. Zoekt Een Naam is all the way on the western front. They should have a very easy entry point into the circle. No one's at the backside of Monte or El Pozo. You can see it's completely clear. Hell, if they wanted to play this one extremely slow, they could even go all the way up to the north and come in around La Cobreria. On the eastern side, it's a little bit more busy. Desperados and Rustamar and Fake on the side of Ence. Both of those two teams there may clash head to head. If there's been a vehicle movement, you may potentially think that either Rustamar or Fake heard that, and the warning signs will be there and they'll be on high alert. Fake probably doesn't have to do anything for the simple fact that the rest of Desperados are more centralized in a position perpendicular to where he is, so he can move forward. Picado's completely empty, and we expect to see that for the simple fact of the mountain behind it. It always moves away from it. It will always shift. And generally speaking, there's only one exit point, or maybe two if you want to look at the western eastern side of it. And with the hillside, you're essentially bottlenecked because of teams looking upon the hills. I think further afield.
Ooh, speaking of fields.
Yeah.
That was a bit awkward in the car, but... And Team Liquid. The other side of Team Liquid, of course, doing very well in Sydney. We've learned that these guys can be champions throughout several titles, and also that no one likes Overwatch.
That's
a couple
good.
of takeaways. That's a nice nade. It might bounce far, not quite far enough. AC going to be kept tempered as Na'Vi join in and will push Liquid away. But at the moment, FaZe falling back into this one. 8C did go walking around, maybe trying to get a bit of an idea as to where everyone is. They did have him in the compound. I think he might have gone out to that crate as well, but does have to fall back in towards the rest of the squad now.
This will be the second time now you've seen Tornado Energy in several different fights, and that's because they're taking two very different angles. Two players will be left slightly at a lower position on the ground inside a building. Meanwhile, X-Team and his partner have gone more to the hillside just north of them, so about 200 to 300 meters will separate, but a very different amount of viewage in front of them.
God, Liquid are they're just so good at taking several fights. We did see them losing out in a couple of rotations before, every now and then, but they commit to it. They have the luxury of the freedom at the top. They haven't got the hard cover that some others do, but they do have that 2-2 split where they still have those two players safe, as you were saying. But it's given them time to maybe fight towards FaZe Clan, Besiktas, but they are in the south, and actually the vast majority of the teams are on the southern side of this, I guess, quite cutting road leading through towards San Martin. So they're going to have to decide, do we want to shuffle north, or do we continue to commit here to the southern side?
I'll try and go through as many rotations as I possibly can, and we'll dip in and out between the action on screen and what's going down on the map. The two players I touched on from Tornado Energy who were up on that hillside, they have moved a little bit more inland, and the rest of Tornado will go up to meet them. They've got a really good compound, not quite center of the map, but certainly more of a foothold than where they are now because the circle has come closer. Then Zoekt Een Naam will benefit off the back of that. There'll be an entry point because they will be gate-kept essentially by Besiktas across the road. Besiktas might have a fight of their own they need to be aware of because Avangar will be approaching on their field, and they are in a 1-1-2 split. Snoopy just pulled up to the fight. We might catch it in a second. He is The hammer coming down as Se7en. Yes, indeed, he gets caught. There is another player inside the buggy, though, gets away with his life for now. But Se7en, the first player to fall here in Game 1 of the Grand Finals.
And that's quite surprising that Avangar are losing out on players. If I was them, you know, you're looking at pushing towards that bigger prize money position. You're not wanting to take hefty risks potentially of going through those fields, but they went for it, and it sadly did not pay off for them. I'm rather surprised they're suffering this early on.
I think this is for the simple fact that they didn't expect to see 3D Max down in the south, so that held them up. They had to have a pause. Even when you've been shot at and damaged, okay, you're out of the vehicles, you're wandering around. There wasn't a knock on that side, but it takes away so much time, as you mentioned. Unity have been found by Desperados, but it's not without an answer, so a re-knock on the opposing side. Looks still holding point, but there's 2 players, and there's a shot in the background as well on an Octave Lauren, but there is a response.
Yeah, completely whiffing that one. Lux had a shot at it, maybe waiting for the perfect opportunity, but the time never came. And now Avangar are suffering on all fronts. Zoekt Een Naam's joined in, and Tommel's got Overwatch on this. The nade is going to actually get his teammate more than anything. That's not ideal, but it's a little bit unfortunate. Simzy is doing work too. Besiktas are mopping up here, getting a good couple of points for themselves, and Avangar struggling. No safety, no good route in. Maybe these later rotations suffering off the back of those earlier scraps with 3D Max.
Tommel does unfortunately kill his teammate, but it would have been extremely difficult to get that player up. On your screen, Trefeli does go down. Mayacho finds him on rotation. Mayacho also now being spotted out. Where are those shots are flying from? That's going to be the rest of Ence that have been waiting in the distance. Rustamar is to the left, and then just up to the northeast, you'll see Mikas and Squeaky. Eventually, Maxizor. Now, Maxi has to do a bit of an open run here. Cannon in hand. We've seen time and time again this man can absolutely ping faces at distance. Do not underestimate in even a 1v1 scenario against an AR, okay, you would expect with a sniper to be outmatched, but his level of skill is so good. He's been putting on a show himself. Expect to see Avangar personally in phase number 3. Groza comes in the middle of the road, quite an exposed area. You do have that building, but again, the smokes you can get to and you can smoke it up, but you're committing utility there. You're wasting time. It's all the way on the north. If SeVen want to make a play for it, there's nowhere else around it. But still, with hillsides, you have to be aware as a player that regardless if you think, oh, this is in the middle of nowhere, players are in the most least expected spots every single time you just overstep your boundary.
Yeah, and you can see those long rotations paying dividends to SeVen. They were out towards the west of Los Leones, and they kind of went northern on this side, and they can have complete freedom with Jokers here. Working from the north has paid off, and then some. We are seeing some of the teams still out in the blue. Northern Lights having Enemy Lord Bro out here being kept back in at arm's length, and a fair bit more, by 3D Max. And that's not the only player. You've got Snoopy out in El Pozo, well into the blue. Digital Athletics shuffling themselves in, but they've got to be careful. They have Team Liquid on their heels. They have Besiktas on their heels. They've got a lot of teams snapping towards where they're heading in.
DA have played well this week, especially with the stand-in. I was speaking about Ira earlier on, and the fact that I was wondering how this would all go down, but they have stepped up to the plate. Ira does play off the back of his team, and the teamwork is absolutely fantastic. The stand-in does just slip into the roster absolutely fantastically. They are in 6 at the moment, coming into the grand final. Still everything to play for. That 3rd and even potentially 2nd spot's well within reach of a distance. Liquid still 131 points. It's been a phenomenal performance from the boys in blue. Besiktas now will be forced to push up.
Good angle from Simzy.
Yeah.
He's able to get a little bit ahead of the curve here. I would say that Digital Athletics will be able to hold the back line if they went slightly further towards the west, but they have their own problems. And that's NIP, who are slightly further up towards Power Grid. Jeems those spots out for Besiktas, and he wants to keep them back, keep them at bay, and I don't blame him because they're right on the door. The nades are there until Will has found Ibby. That's not a flush, but it is certainly a knock.
The biggest thing for Liquid here is the fact that they're playing with so much confidence because there's basically nothing to lose. All they have to do is keep going, get a few kills, and make it to top 10. Tommel's gone on the opposing side. Rustamar still getting damage in the kill feed. Wago does go down. 1 point goes the way of Rustamar. Tommel might... Actually, he's even going to be a distraction, so Liquid force their sight onto him. He becomes a beacon, taps one in the back, but he does get away with his life. And now the rest of Besiktas, they either A, play for the emergency placement and completely disengage from this fight, or they reposition in front of Liquid. As we go more and closer towards the power grid, that's an elevated line of sight they will gain. They'll get the advantage if they get behind Liquid because they'll be playing off the back of the blue.
I'm worried that they're not taking this opportunity though, Rich. They're still kind of being held in position. They don't know what's clear in front of them. That, I guess, is the next problem. But they're now trying to swing back around south towards, you know, the eastern side here. Tom's going to take some blue damage, but we should have Simzy and Ultra a little bit further ahead. If you're going to try and take this jump up, while Tom was doing all of that, you're meant to jump on it and optimize the time he's bought you. But we are seeing issues further afield.
I was speaking, well, sorry, excuse me, you was speaking of jumping. A very clever little play that I noticed there. Jeems was on top of the building. He completely split from his rest of the team while they held the front lines. He got on top of the building in the little compound just behind them. And he was essentially using that elevated line of sight to scout where Besiktas were going. Kamka does go down. Vasku sees him in the blue. Might not know Airkey's here just on the hillside. Ival's clearly been damaged and he is taking blue damage now. His vehicle's up in smoke. We'll see if his health does
FaZe
go back
going to
up.
third party. Here they come. FaZe just arrived on the scene and they have all 4 players alive. Ladies and gents, is this going to finally be the FaZe we're waiting for? Making it through a full rotation with 4 players standing, getting some kills. Is it time? Maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself, but Zoekt Een Naam have decided, don't want any of that, let's head north. Let's find a new way forward. Edelweiss called out MBS, but that's not a flush just yet, as the other 2 splits from FaZe are working on the same route as Team Liquid in the cars. This is where we saw that kill coming in. Edelweiss catching out MBS. Now, they are not alone here. They have several threats on several fronts on this western side of San Martin.
So there's 2 stories to San Martin. One, this is a strong point anyway at the front side of San Martin because it gives you more entrance and exit points. 2, for the simple fact that, oh, wait a minute, I'll hold my thought for now because Mexi has got a nade. Jeems is stolen here.
He was the last one. He's okay. He was the last one joining the other 2. He's further back, so Team Liquid have other threats. Yes, because Unity are holding that southern side of San Martin Road. Those couple of compounds, they're heavily sought after. They currently control. Samty is now alone. Not completely out of it, but that southwestern side, Richard, look at this. FaZe Clan, Na'Vi, Digital Athletics, Besiktas, and Ence all running the same way. Digital Athletics are literally running that way in the open, trying to avoid the shots coming in from Unity, who can just look up this hillside and keep them under pressure, keep those shots coming in. And with Zoekt Een Naam heading further north, they have eventually run into the Jokers.
There's 4 points to this circle. The front side of San Martin, because the circle pushes you to the edge of the city. Where FaZe are going to commit to, just next to Liquid, the rest of Liquid, should I say, is Samty. He's going to get the fight of his life. They're about to rock up to this ball side. If we get this on screen, you might see that kill feed alive. They haven't had to commit. All the vehicles are here. He's laying down the hammer. The grenade's off. Liquid goes out in 15th.
Really good trade from FaZe. They kept their heads about them, kept their cool. They didn't know exactly what they were rocking up to, but they dealt with it. There was a casualty, but I'm pretty sure the revive can come in.
Playing off the back of that, now they've taken a very sought-after position. This might force the Na'Vi and Besiktas fight. They have to go across the road. There's really nowhere to hide apart from the trees. They are in front of them, though, Lauren. It could be devastating Besiktas if they don't take them down quickly.
But where is Bestelog here? He is still on the side of them. He needs to try and get into this fight to help out his teammates. He's finally there, but he can't get right inside. Simzy gets way too ahead of himself, but the pressure, the spray, it didn't connect as Bestelog would have wanted. And now his position is noted. The nades have taken down Pokemon, though Energy have gone. Bestelog is fighting with everything he has because he's the last standing bastion here for Na'Vi. The nades are good, and Ultra lands it. He is now in no man's land, dipping down. He tries to get into this. FaZe are stealing the kills in the meantime, and we're seeing Se7en in a battle themselves.
3D Max have gone down. They're down in 14th. Unfortunate for them in game number 1, as you mentioned. Because FaZe had took that position, they were allowed to get involved in this fight and do some steals. Bestelog will do whatever he can to hold on for dear life. Ultra could go for the off angle and maybe just scare him out with a grenade or even just fake a smoke.
Tom Hill's already found that low ground push. He knows they took down the rest of Na'Vi. Really well played from Besiktas. Aggressive and just getting in there and not laying back and resting on their laurels, but they've lost out on players doing all this, and Digital Athletics are kind of in the same predicament. They have Unity looking at them, potentially FaZe, and now Besiktas. All eyes turn towards the last team to come in from this side.
This is the weakest spot, though, unfortunately. They can lay down and play off the back of it, but once that was a... And he's just going to try and follow it through. I mean, why not? Grenade. In we go. Mortar strike. Will it find a target? Just falls short. Go for the second, but they need to be careful. Don't get overzealous here because the rest of NLT are going to get involved.
Yeah, the grenades land. Se7en holds one side, so Desperados are tunneled in towards the other side. Where Northern Lights are... Oh, the nade! Towzera and Cold are meant to go down. That's a huge pickup. And what a fumble from the Desperados. Maybe being a little overzealous, maybe wanted to shuffle in early, try and get ahead of the curve here, get towards that next circle that has come in. towards the southwestern side. So FaZe are looking at prime territory. Calvin Klein and Fake trying to pull up on what they have left here, but Quizzy is there. Quizzy breaches. Aggression aplenty. 20 bullets left and one more player to find from the Desperados. They're looking desperate for options.
And this all came off the back of being too focused on one player and getting greedy, in my opinion. We did see the grenade, they clipped the wall. They're just going to keep up the barrage, and why not? They're down, and that all comes off of being too greedy. They were fixated so hard on one player just behind the wall. The grenade chipped the edge, it went for the building, it chipped the edge, bounced back, took out 2 players. And NLT, they pushed their advantage. That's a great play from them, but unfortunately, Desperado to me dropped the ball there.
They certainly have. The Jokers have to push up, though, and they know that. Let's jump into this situation, because it's certainly not an easy one. They have Moon in the circle, but Zoekt Een Naam kind of hold the other side of things, but they're held at low ground, which is making it so tricky for them to find a way in. And now FaZe can put full eyes towards this too. The nade is good again. We are seeing these land so perfectly, so well placed. A trade came back in, but that's only on Tab. He was the most aggressive player for the Jokers, and there's still so many other dangers out here. You go for this revive, which they're trying to do. They're pushing this one. Deez is there. We know the Jokers love that aggressive style. They were the headhunters. They were the kill finders throughout the group stage.
And it wouldn't surprise me if we see them go out rather shortly in the form of Zen. I saw some Molotovs coming up. I did see black damage. I saw some black numbers clicking, and I really did think this were Besiktas who had an eyeline on it, and it is. You can see them on the opposing side of the hill. They have been a knife in the back for Zen. They are forced down. The Molotovs initially were being thrown towards this wire metal fence here. Basically, for a denial of an entry point, they blocked that off, which stopped them pushing up on them. They had to hide behind the rock. And then basically, Besiktas says, well, we've got an open eye line on you now. We can shoot you in the back, draw their attention. Zen are alive for now. They are in the circle, thankfully, but it's a devastatingly poor position. There's nowhere to go apart from down the hillside. And either you die to Jokers or you die to Besiktas.
Yeah, we are seeing Se7en, though, holding that eastern side. The push out from San Martin. Edelweiss is there and catching out Quizzy pretty comfortably. We are finally seeing NIP getting into the battle. This is all in these apartments. And look at NIP's positioning. They hold that circle push. Ence are in a really hard position because they have to breach this. And it's so hard on so many levels. Vard can find Squeaky. I don't think there's a trade because of this hard cover that they've got themselves situated in. FaZe finally have the circle. They have plenty of players alive. I've just seen that one hit, so they are laughing here. They could potentially be focused, but that's for the next couple of discussions. Vard, if he wide peeks that window, he would catch Rustamar, but he might just have got away with his life, but only to find Unity waiting.
FaZe are central, but there is a negative effect of that. One good grenade in that ditch area, like the ball, would literally roll between their legs and completely blow them off the face of the planet. Avangar are downstairs, we need to be careful. The players that are left standing, I believe it's Snoopy and Maxi. Trying to do some work here on Se7en. Se7en step out, one goes down.
They can't go one by one, Rich. This is a problem waiting to happen. Frank's now doing the same thing. Maxi is playing this so well. He is being a pure nuisance player. And we are seeing Orange Snow spotting out the remainders of Ence, catching him on the way through. Maxi is still biding time. He's got himself silently in this position. They don't know it. They haven't seen him. Oh my God, Maxi, look at this play. If he comes around that corner, he doesn't know they're both in the smoke. It's completely obscuring his vision, but he's right next to them. He is literally a step away from the opponents. He's wrapped around the side. FaZe are going off in the meantime. Ence has gone down, but Maxi strikes. But can he get anyone? No. He gets caught in the heels by the rest of Se7en, who keep themselves in tradable formation, but a third party is now looking likely. Be it Snoopy, be it NIP, all eyes turn towards Se7en, locked into this corner.
This is unbelievably messy, and once this fight's done, we go to our next one. NIP and Unity have yet to make a stance. The best advantage for Unity is that so many people have to come their way. They're the last ones that have to move away from the blue because they're on the slower side compared to NIP. They also have this elevated line of sight, which will give them a very slight advantage. Besiktas and Jokers, they're the next fight to ensure. We've got a fight on two fronts, and once this is done, it's all eyes on FaZe. They are in the center, they are in the ball, they are basically trenched in, waiting for this next circle to encroach.
I do worry. There's lots and lots of utility still on Unity, and they're the ones with the big numbers still alive, as do Digital Athletics, even though they've been knocked plenty of times. Now let's look at the northern side here. This is Besiktas. Tomil and Ultra still stand, covering fire to allow Tomil to get closer to check the corner, but the Jokers are not just waiting back. They're not being hyper-passive. They're trying to play this hillside Unity, test the waters, a little too hot on that side. Might look for other options, because Vard had a nice angle on them, but sadly, as soon as he opened up, FaZe turned attention.
They've moved into a 2-2 split as
It's
well.
the Jokers who got it.
Which basically kind of helps if grenades go their way. ITC can play the off angle slightly just on the brow of the hill, but he needs to be aware that if he does overextend himself, he'll put himself in view of Unity circle. She comes in, okay?
Oh, Digital Athletics,
well,
not
we
bad.
kind of I mean, we were talking about them, how they were struggling at first, but they've spread out so much across the map. They now actually might be in a decent position. It will be open to the viewing side of Besiktas should they turn and run. However, Besiktas and Jokers now at the mercy of the circle. They have to come down from the mountainside. That safe little ridgeline they've had for so long now becomes exposed. FaZe still sitting, waiting with open arms. Taking the vehicles out,
Tommel's
making
on
sure
the
the
move,
grenades won't do
Rich.
the
Tommel's
damage.
on the move. Great timing from Tommel to apply the pressure when the Jokers would have wanted it the least. He actually does confirm onto Yarmush. How is there no trade from Deez? He was right there, maybe on a deeper angle and couldn't quite see the push. But Tommel now has full attention from the remainder of Jokers. But that's a huge loss for them. They could have tried to maybe sneak their way forward towards FaZe, but not going to happen now as Unity start their fire towards Besiktas. But there's still Digital Athletics in the south who will eventually be able to see these angles. Uh-oh, Ultra is in trouble and he is silhouetting so badly. Deez waits patiently, trades in, avenges his fallen teammate, and the Jokers still stand. Maybe not with everything they'd want, but they at least have one man alive.
I think with two standing from Besiktas, the better player would have been committed to one side and go as a duo. They may have been able to take out Deez and keep two alive to go up against FaZe Clan, and now Ultra finds himself at the mercy of two angles. One from Digital Athletics, directly across from him, Bambaki, and then one from all four members of Unity. Unity are going to have the fight of their life. You have FaZe on one side who are now edging ever so closer to the embankment of the roadside, which will give them cover. Finally, Ultra's gone. It's FuzzFace to seal the deal on that one, fourth place. Good for them. Again, another high placement we keep seeing with limited resources and players.
Uber.
All of a sudden, though,
Where did he get that from?
this is the problem now, is that for Unity, they've had all this defense and this line of sight from the building. But
Look
there is
at
an
Muxi's
exposed
position.
area.
Look at this aggression coming out from him. Him as an isolated player, he's pushed up. He's going to be the real nuisance to these teams on the southern side. Digital Athletics did push a beautiful death up further, and I like that. That's nice play. FuzzFace looks like he's jumping at the bit to try and do the same thing as Muxi, but he can't do the same. Digital Athletics have turned their attention there. Now, it's how do these two teams on the southern side play out, and also where does this next kind of push happen? It's going to go south, so that's why you'd commit one man over the road early, maybe use him as a springboard player going forward, but this does force Unity to try and make another move to just shuffle their way in a little bit closer, because look at them right now. They're just prone down. They don't have much steps, and as soon as they peek up, look who's there waiting. It's Mert.
Now this has been the go time. That was a signal for FaZe to get across the road. They didn't want to stay where they were because then they would really be at the mercy of grenades
But
and
they're
boxed into a
isolated,
corner.
Rich. I'm a bit worried that FaZe could get picked up one by one in the mess. Right now, though, it's working out well because Digital Athletics are so focused on Unity.
This is the only advantage for them. Getting across the road was vital. Yes, they are in a very open, wide split, and they could get picked off one by one, but it's better than being stuck in a corner and all going down to one grenade and basically just bunkering in and praying the circle comes your way. They were proactive. Mexi went across, made the call, says, I'll sit here. Once the call's made that the other two teams then engage one another, they're distracted, so they all move. That shot also might be a go time. I'm seeing Mexi and FuzzFace is pushing.
They do not know how close FaZe are. Bambaki has no idea. He's got maybe an inkling that someone's nearby.
He heard that.
Yeah, he's definitely heard those steps. He's heard something happening. The circle is pushing them ever, ever closer. FuzzFace and Muxi really want to get in on this one. They desperately want to peek the line, and FuzzFace is the Orm. He could be the one to really deliver the death blow there. But for now, we see FaZe holding the line, trying to be patient, trying to play the smart, and Bambaki gets an angle. Uber gets put on notice. He can't get away with that, but it's going to encourage Muxi and the others to try and get in the fight. He knows that. Bambaki reads the situation very well, but it's getting towards crunch time here, and the nades are starting to come out, Rich.
FaZe have yet to commit a lot of utility. Now they can start to waste it and make it count. DA basically just playing for placement. They're so split that they can be picked off individually. Unity, two men back-to-back in a corner. Blue's going to start to come in and push them forward. FaZe basically control the circle. They've got all four players on the ridgeline.
I don't know. I'm not so sold by this, Rich, and that's because of the East. It worries me because it can get messy. Yes, they have utility. Yes, they have everything else, but Unity are on the move. They're on the push. 8C is there. The smokes begin to happen because that blue is going to push them closer and closer.
Look at how much damage that grenade did. They have no health whatsoever, and that's because there's only one entry point. You can smoke it off, but they're basically just going to stand here and hold it.
He's got to hold this line. That's really well played, but he has no hard cover. He falls back well to the smoke.
Good
Sadovnik Athletic still alive. This could be good. The nade finds Bambaki. It's surely go time. A beautiful death has waited and maybe waited too long. Unity goes down. We're down to 2 teams now. And let's see what Digital Athletics can bring out. Right now, the answer is absolutely nothing. FaZe finally turning up after what felt like a lifetime of disappointment. Incredible play at the end, picking up the win and a hell of a lot of kills to boot.
We've called it FaZe Sunday, time and time again. We know how far Liquid is in front of the competition, but they did have a bad game going down in 15. FaZe pick up a ton of kills and a first place finish, and that was all down to that final circle and how they played.